Friday on this channel. Adult Beverage Friday. Thank you for being here, my friends. And I see some of you are saying good afternoon and some are saying good night. And I guess it depends on where you are. So here in California, it's 8 o'clock p.m., my usual startup time for live streaming for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I can't remember now. I've been doing this for a while. So thank you for waiting for Rob to finish dinner. No, it's Adult Beverage Friday. You were waiting for me to finish with adult beverages, and yeah, restaurants are finally partially open here in LA, so we're actually able to eat at a normal restaurant now, although kind of like partially occupied, but at least it's something. So hello, Keith in Miami. Hello, Seraphim of the Desert. WXSEDY. Great Gold. Deja Vu. Entire Meyer. Ruthlin Willis. Or Wills. 9. Bratwurst Power. Mel Man 8R. Mama Goo. Hello, Mama Goo. Yo, yo. Hey, yo. Changed names. Kent. So, anyway. Do you use a credit card at the restaurant or cash? No, I use a credit card, but yeah, I have a little trick with that. I have a trick with that. So, not sure I want to reveal it though. Should I reveal it? Yeah, I have a trick with credit cards. So, yeah. Yeah, I have so many tricks. So that's one way is when I go to a restaurant, it doesn't show. It shows whatever name I want it to show. So yeah, but that's a different topic. So we're not going to talk about that today. So anyway, the topic tonight, guys. Please reveal the trick. The topic tonight, guys, is carrier security. What about carriers? Because we talked about Google, Apple spying on your phone, and then we have the carriers, and then we have your ISP, and it's not entirely clear, what the carriers see nowadays. It used to be very clear back in the old days. In fact, during Snowden's revelations, the carriers were being, well, they had a link with Prism, the Prism system, which is the three-letter agency collection for all of your records when it comes to calling on a phone. So every phone call, every text was tracked and was sent to the Prism system. And unfortunately, times have changed since 2007. How many people actually call? The number of phone calls have dropped. So the less phone calls, the less they're tracking. And now the question is, what are they collecting? So it's actually changed. We're gonna examine that. Cell carrier definitely see my whereabout, location, shop, stations. Actually, I don't think so. Not yet. Maybe with 5G they will. Is it better using something? No. Brave's new search engine should be interesting. By the way, just for those of you who have the Google phones, I noticed today that there's a new version of Aurora Store, and it really got me confused because one of them doesn't work. So the one that you have to use is the one that says Play Store Client Aurora, and it looks a little bit purple. The blue one doesn't work. There's a purple icon, and that's the one we've been installing today. So there is again a new version of Aurora Store for those using the Google phone. So just be aware of that, and it's the purple icon. So it actually says Google Play Store Client. You have to look for the word Play Store, and if it's not Play Store, then that's not the one. So it looks different. They modified the look. Looks more modern, but I don't need any fancy features. I just need it to work. So it was kind of a problem when it didn't work. Anyway, yeah, so Prism. So Prism Program in case you didn't know, it was in the Snowden dump. Prism is when you make a phone call, there is a record of the phone call, who you talked to, how long, and that then goes to the Prism program. So they can then search every phone call that occurred in the United States, and they can say who talked to whom and create what is called a relationship map to see who you're talking to. So some of you are saying, oh, I need to get a burner phone and I'll be safe and I won't be identified with a burner phone. And because of Prism, that really isn't true, because all they have to do is track who you're calling. So if, let's say you have a burner phone, you call your wife, end of story. So they know who you're going to call because it's on your pattern list of who you're going to call, and they're going to find out who it is. Now, the times have changed in the last, decade. And the change is that we use the phone less, much, much less, and we rely a lot on data. And then because of the changes in the way we do our business with apps, especially with encrypted apps, then the carriers are getting less and less information. Another thing that carriers rely on as far as, spying on you, they rely on something called DNS tracking. So you may choose to specify a DNS on your machine, your device, and you say, well, I want my DNS to be 8.8.8.8, which happens to be Google. And your ISP will see that you went to 8.8.8.8, and it will actually feed it through a proxy. So even if you specify your own DNS, it will actually go through the ISP's DNS. So the carrier. So for example, if you're using AT&T can then override the DNS setting on your phone and force you to go to AT&T's DNS. That way they can see every website you visit. They also know the website that you visit if they just track your internet traffic. Now, back in the old days, the tracking of your activity on the internet was mostly open because it's HTTP. Nowadays, we're dealing with HTTPS. Now, what HTTPS does, in case you didn't know, is when you use HTTPS, which is the encryption for web browsing, when you use HTTPS, the only thing that's visible to the carrier is the domain. They know what domain you went to, or the IP address of the website you went to. That's it. They actually can't see anything else. They don't know what you did on the domain. Let's say you went to bankofamerica.com. When you go to your phone and you type bankofamerica.com, yes, they know that you went to bankofamerica.com. They don't know what you did on bankofamerica.com. That's encrypted. Same with you, if you go to PayPal, they can't see the transactions. They can't do any of that. There are exceptions to this, I'll tell you in a moment. But normally they don't see anything. So back in the old days, they could see it because, we didn't really encrypt a lot of our traffic. But nowadays, everything is being encrypted. And so the last stronghold of the ISP is to see your DNS traffic. So if you search for Microsoft.com, you go through the DNS query, and the DNS then will tell you where Microsoft.com is. And that DNS is usually provided by the carrier, and they can override your selection of a DNS server. They can override that with theirs. That way they can see the traffic. Well, Google changed that. So what Google did is they said, well, on all of the Androids now, we're going to set it up to private DNS. So one of the benefits supposedly of private DNS is that it encrypts your DNS traffic. So you can no longer do what the ISPs are doing, which is to do what is called a DNS proxy. They can't do that with private DNS because it's encrypted. Google encrypted the traffic. So this is the funny part. So it sounds like it's good news because now the carriers cannot see your DNS traffic on an Android by default. They cannot see it because it's set to private DNS. So this is exactly what I was trying to tell you in my videos, that this is what Google has been doing lately. What they've been doing is saying, we are going to encrypt the data to give you more privacy, supposedly. And because we're encrypting, then companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon cannot see your DNS queries. But the reality is, and it's a little bit stranger than what they claim, the reality is, instead of the DNS going to your T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, it's all going to Google. So Google has basically centralized the DNS. So what's happening is, with every change that Google is doing, they're basically locking out third parties. They're locking out third parties. They're locking out the DNS queries. They're locking out the HTTP. Well, that's already been locked out. So basically, the only thing missing is that you need a VPN, and then the carrier sees nothing. If you had a VPN, the carrier sees nothing at all. But Google always sees the DNS if you set the private DNS on. There's something that I always turn off, because it's like giving the visibility to Google for everyone using Android, centralized DNS. And so they can say who's going to CNN and who's going to Fox News, which is kind of a very clear demarcation. I don't know why it got to that, but nowadays it's very clear that if you're watching CNN, then we know what side you belong to. If you're watching Fox News, we know what side you belong to. If you're going to Infowars.com, if you're going to, all of these little things are being used to profile, and it's kind of bothersome to me. It's really bothersome, because it's like saying, well, you're not really free to do it because we're going to track you. So the reality is that the carriers are being locked out slowly. They still have some data, and we're going to explore that and see what else they have left. They don't have much left here. One of the things that the carrier does not have is precise location. Only Google and Apple have precise location. Google and Apple can find you within inches. Now, the carriers want to stop that, so they have 5G. So if you have 5G, then the carriers will be able to spot you within inches. So now they're going to compete with the Google and Apple and saying, hey, we got locations too. We got 5G, we can find you within inches. If you're on 4G, they cannot. 4G will give them, approximately half a mile square, maybe at the most quarter mile square, depending on the number of cell stations. But it's, you'll be one of millions of people, hundreds of thousands at least. So you won't actually be, pinpointed exactly using just the pretty raw location capability of cell tower triangulation. It doesn't really do as much as what Google can do. What Google does is Wi-Fi triangulation. Wi-Fi triangulation can identify your location within 6 feet, and at the worst, in the worst case, and could even be inches in the best case. So yeah, so that's Wi-Fi triangulation. So basically, carriers are being knocked out, and the data is actually being centralized within Google and Apple. So it's whatever data that you think is disappearing, it's not disappearing. It's just being collected all to Google and Apple. It's really funny that no one actually is watching this. And it shocks me. Every time that Google does something, you always have to see, what is the effect of this? Is it actually adding data to Google or not? So when Google added Fitbit, and they actually went to the EU and to get approval for that purchase, for that acquisition, and they actually agreed with the EU that no, we're not going to do advertising we're not going to sell the data for advertising on Fitbit to third parties. But they're not banned for collecting data for themselves. So as long as they don't use it for advertising, it's okay. They're going to use it for themselves. Yet they paid 2.1 billion for a company where they can't use it for advertising, and yet they went for it. Why do you think that is? Because each Fitbit is a biometric device, and as I mentioned in my video, it's an identity device. It identifies you clearly. So you can't really fake your identity when you have Fitbit. So it's like, it's being chipped. It's like double chipped. You already got chipped with your phone, and then you're getting chipped by Fitbit. So again, less and less data available to the carriers and more to Google. So Google is like, lying to you big time here and telling you, oh, things are good. We're things are going to be great because, we care about you. We care about your privacy. BS. It's the biggest BS I've ever heard. So carriers still, unfortunately, are tied to something called the CALEA law, CALEA, which is the what is it? Communications Act for Law Enforcement Assistance. Communications Act Law Enforcement Assistance, something like that, CALEA. So that was during the Clinton times. What CALEA law is a license to spy on you. So the carriers are required to be able to tap into your phone conversations, which includes voice over IP. They're supposed to allow, this is by law, so they actually have systems for this. And the system says hardware is built in. If law enforcement says they want to listen into somebody's conversation, they can tap in immediately. Yes, they need, some sort of, I don't even know if they need a warrant. There's some channel and they can ask for that assistance to listen to a conversation. So that's CALEA. Now, unfortunately, again, this is the part of the changing technology here. The CALEA law is definitely going out of date because the number of people that actually do phone calling is getting smaller and smaller. Like, I don't know how many times I actually make a call, and of all the calls I make, 99% of it is probably like, useless stuff. Calling your family and saying, what's for dinner, stuff like that. So, it's getting to the point where the collectible data with the CALEA law is getting less and less, especially because people are using encrypted voice over IP like you can do with Signal. So if you use Signal, then basically your carrier gets nothing. So there you go. Use Signal with your family. Use Signal for voice over IP. Don't use the actual phone. So you're going to be using the internet encrypted, voice over IP encrypted, or even video using Signal, and the carrier gets nothing. So the carrier is getting locked out. So they may have to come up with a new model because they used to try to make money from stealing our data, and they were trying to do to circumvent the the net neutrality, which, as you know, they're screwing around with, obviously, now. They were blocking VPNs and so on a couple of months ago. But, it's getting interesting here because the carriers are losing the data collection battle. And you never hear about that. And the reason they're losing is because, it's really being either captured by Google or Apple, or it's being encrypted. So, they're running out of options there. So, because of this, I'm thinking, and this is just, conjecture here. I have no actual data to prove this either way, but just from what we know, I'm starting to think that the carriers are probably giving up trying to collect data from the phone side because they probably don't get much now. With DNS being blocked recently from Google in the last year or two, and with all of this encryption stuff and people flocking into encrypted apps and so on, and the ones that Kalia may have been able to get a grip on may have been like Skype. I think Skype was one of those that may have been included in the Kalia law. I'm not certain on this, but certainly Signal is not. So Signal is not. It's not part of this. So if it's encrypted, the rule is kind of strange. The Kalia law applies to things that are not encrypted. If it's encrypted, they're not required to decrypt it. So anyway, so given this, what else is left? We're kind of like running out of data that they can collect. Now, in case you didn't know, one of the carrier duties is to supply data to three-letter agencies, and one of the biggest supplier of that data is AT&T. So AT&T has what are called peering stations. They have 8 peering stations all over the country in the U.S., and basically they listen into all the internet traffic, and then based on what the traffic is, they then funnel the information to the three-letter agency in Utah, the Utah data center. We don't need to discuss which agency I'm talking about. Just search for Utah data center. This $4 billion building facility, which they're opening 3 more, so there'll be 4 of these. So number 1 is built in Utah, and they'll be building 3 more across the country. The question, though, is what are they going to be capturing? Because of the encryption, they're kind of losing ground because they're capturing less data. So basically what's happening, I don't know what the effects of these are, but what's happening is more and more data are being captured by Google, less and less data being captured by three-letter agencies. What does that mean? They're going to fight back at some point, I suppose. Like Australia is trying to fight back, and they want to limit encryption so they can go track everyone. Because Australia wants to be at the forefront of spying on their citizens. So I tend to worry less now. This is an amazing thing. I tend to worry less now about what Snowden was worried about, which is being tracked by government. And I have to focus now on where the big tracking is going. And the big tracking seems to be going to Apple and Google. And Facebook, of course. So, yeah, it's a very strange set of affairs here. I don't know if even people have really thought about this. I'm sure the three-letter agencies are going out and saying, well, encryption's killing us, because they're getting less and less information because of encryption. And I don't know what this means in terms of data collection, and how they're probably linking directly to Google and Facebook. That's what my guess is. My guess is they're just going to do like a Prism, where they say, okay, we'll just contract with Google and Facebook and Amazon and just collect the data directly from those guys, and consider like a subcontracting affair, rather than do it this old way, which was using Prism. So very interesting stuff. This is conjecture. I don't really know, but clearly from just the turn of events in the last 5 years, it's shifting. How many people used Signal 5 years ago? Things have shifted. So thank you, Vert's Videos. Yes, hit the like button. yeah, hit the like button and let Google know that others should watch this video. My numbers have like dropped. I mean, I don't. Google hasn't been sharing my videos in the last month. It's aside from people, organically coming to my channel. I don't think Google's feeding my videos at all. So it's very, very, scary because you don't have any control really of this. If Google gets if YouTube gets upset with me for some reason, they can just cut you out. So make sure you follow me on Odyssey, Odyssey.com. So anyway, what they're gonna do? What are they gonna do when they come for you? Okay. Before I continue, let me just interrupt this broadcast by telling you about my sponsor, which is Linode. Linode, of course, is, in fact, I use Linode myself. I'm a big user of Linode servers. If you want to set up a Linux server and you want to set it up in the cloud, you set it up with Linode. So some of you have actually even set up your own Jitsi server or your own XMPP server, and you can have the most private conversations you can possibly have. It's so easy to set up, and you don't have to do much. And you can set up a XMPP server for as cheap as $5 a month. You don't even need a powerful server. Thank you, Don Juan. And so Linode is actually able to offer you service for as cheap as $5 a month, a shared server. And it's so easy to do and so easy to fire up, and such great service from this company. I'm very, very pleased with them. I've been with Linode now for many, many months and have a lot of service with them. And I can tell you that of all the ISPs I have, I'm going to say they're number one. I don't have any other better ISP than Linode. And certainly I don't get any support from Amazon AWS. So compared to Amazon AWS, there's practically no support. You're kind of on your own. So if you use the code linode.com/Rob Braxman, when you set up your Linode account, you actually get $100 credit, which you will be able to use for up to 2 months. So 60 days, and you can use this $100 credit at Linode if you use the link that I show there. So check that out, and it's also in the description. Okay, so let me start. Kaito Floyd, read me info. Hello, Jose. Mind hunger. Okay, let me answer some of the questions that I saw here from earlier, and then if I don't see your question, just type it in again. One of the questions was, what's the difference between Wi-Fi and cell data? If you're on Wi-Fi, you have a fixed IP address. So if you're at home, your home network will have a fixed IP address. Like I said, in many cases, that my own IP address has not changed in 19 years. 19 years, I have the same IP address. So as long as I don't move, I'll have the same IP address. I haven't moved, so thank you, Adam. Thank you so much. So that's a problem, because if you have a fixed IP address, then they can identify all the activity of anyone in your household for the last 20 years. And they don't need any lookup. They don't need to go to anybody else to go qualify who owns the IP address, because they can just establish a pattern and know your identity just from everything you've done in the last 20 years on that IP address. All they have to do is look at emails. So emails are one of the things that the three-letter agencies are still able to track, by the way. So three-letter agencies can track the email and can read the email, and from there they can capture the IP address which is on the email, which has your name on it. So in theory, a three-letter agency can actually read every email that's been sent out back and forth. Okay, so what happens if you're using cell data? If you're using cell data, your IP address is changing, because you're sharing your IP address with other people in the cell area, and you'll be assigned an IP address at the moment that you're using it, and then when your phone goes to sleep and it starts up again, it may have a different IP address on startup again. So because of that, third parties, not counting the carrier now, but third parties do not really get IP address information from cell data. So in a way, cell data is kind of like having a VPN, at least to a third party. Okay, so if you are trying to feel a little bit safer, if you use cell data instead of Wi-Fi in your home, then yes, a third party like Facebook, YouTube, Google will not be able to get a meaningful IP address from cell data. Okay? And Google's now trying to, back away from relying on IP addresses because they know we're using VPNs and we're playing all these tricks on them. Plus, they know cell data doesn't give you a reliable IP address anymore. Okay? So, based on that, if you want to feel a bit safe, let's say you're traveling, as long as you're in cell data, you don't really have to worry about your IP address on the road. You do not have to turn on your VPN on the road for light stuff that you don't really need to hide, because the third-party app will not get your IP address on the road. Okay, so that's for mobile. Your ISP, however, can still see what you're doing on that IP address. They can see what websites you're visiting, but that's about it. They can see what websites you're visiting. They can see the DNS, unless you're an Android, in which case then Google blocked that too. So they can see the IP addresses of from and to. The IP address they will know is you because they assign the IP address to you. So they don't need to know your IP address, your carrier. They just know you by name. So, they know it's Ron Timmons on the phone because they assign you the IP address and they know your ID, your carrier, your IMEI, your IMSI. They know all of that. So they know the source is Ron Timmons. Okay, now the target is the website. So they know that too. So, again, that information is getting more and more limited as we go along. I'm not sure how happy they are with that or what they can do with that data, because it's basically becoming a smaller and smaller data set. So I'm guessing that I'm not really going to be as afraid of third parties doing mass surveillance from carrier internet data because of the way it is now, encrypted, HTTPS, and even a lot of the DNS removed by Google. So that's kind of the situation there. Now, if you want to really feel safe using your mobile, let's say you want to do a special thing, you want to query a particular topic that you don't really want anybody watching, then I recommend you install Orbot. Orbot is available on the Google phones. We install Orbot all the time, and it's basically Tor. So if you're using Orbot on your Android phone, then you're good to go. That's it. You're encrypted. If you are not on an Android phone, then you need to find some other solution like a VPN. So if you want to feel safer on an iPhone, you do have to use a VPN. If you're on Android, even without a VPN, you have always the option of running Orbot. So I use Phone Info on Google Cloud Platform. If you want to support Rob, donate directly. Google takes half of the Super Chat donation. Thank you, Levendi. Read me info. I never understood that. Could you explain? State-owned exit nodes aren't very useful for them unless they also own the node you're using to connect to the Tor network. No reason to spread FUD. Yes, that is. So you must be talking about Tor. Yeah. So yeah, uh, clearly some of the exit nodes on Tor are owned by three-letter agencies. So, and the traffic coming out of exit nodes on Tor nowadays are mostly HTTPS. So that kind of limits what they can see on there. Besides, they only see a burst, and then you change servers and you go to a different exit node. So you're changing exit nodes very frequently. And in order for them to know exactly what's going on, they need to know the entry node and the exit node. And one of the tricks that Tor does is when you're using Tor, it actually keeps the entry node fixed. It doesn't change the entry node. So if you're using Tor, only the exit node keeps changing. The entry node is fixed. Even if you're changing to different countries, your entry node stays put for a long time. So because of that, then they're not able to coordinate saying, oh, one entry node and one exit node owned by the same player, and then they can do a comparison and say, it's the same person, we can track them. Yeah, Tor is still, pretty effective. Now, there's a way around that, but they'd have to expend a lot of resources. For normal people, it doesn't matter. Carriers can collect triangulated cell location telemetry through branded apps, GPS, everything CCPA. Certain carriers have moved towards cohorts groups rather than identities. They may not have enough in terms of identities, yes. Well, they have, MZ, IMEI, but the amount of data, so they do have identity because they have IMEI and MZ, but they don't have data. Remember in my last video, I said data plus identity. So in the case of the carrier, they have identity, but they're missing out on the data. Google has data and identity. Facebook has data and identity. Apple has data and identity. Carriers don't. So they're kind of running out of options. What about OBFS4? Yes, you can use that. Was my job to post under a new username every 5 posts. Okay. Since when is New Zealand such a commie? I'm not going to comment on that. Let me just try to. Okay. Amy, thank you. Thank you, Amy. So let me just see if I can. Best private encrypted email is do not use email. The best private encrypted email is to use a encrypted messaging program and stop using email. That's the best. Guys, I have so many videos. It's kind of tiring to go over it over and over when people are not paying attention to my old videos on email. I'm telling you over and over, email is not safe. So what is the best email to use? The best email to use is only possible if you're both on the same domain. So in my case, I own the domain BraxMe. Okay? If I give everyone I know an email account on BraxMe, that is extremely safe. Because only I can see it. Now, they can't, talk behind my back because I can see what they're talking about too. But since I own the domain, the owner of the domain has full control over that. So that is very secure. It stops getting secure when you do inter-domain. So BraxMe talking to google.com, gmail.com, no longer safe. BraxMe talking to ProtonMail, no longer safe. At the moment you cross a domain, it's not safe anymore. Solution is do not use email. Do not use email. So I know we have no choice. We have to use email, but nobody said you had to use it a lot. Nobody said you had to use it for serious stuff. Nobody said you have to use one email account. You should have many email accounts by categories. Do not mix business with pleasure. Do not mix social media with real stuff. Don't have email that's for, let's say, talking to your accountant, and you're passing documents, which is really bad in email, stupid actually, uh, and then use that same one to be social media, because obviously everything is going to be identified together. Plus, they're going to be able to read. Someone will be able to read whatever you attach to your email. So the most stupid stuff that I can see is, it's IRS time, and then you say, I'm going to send my paperwork to my accountant using email. Oh, I'm going to put it in a zip file and encrypt it. It's like, oh my gosh. Do you know how fast it would take? Do you know how long it would take for a hacker to decrypt a zip file? Encrypted by typically your social security number. Do you know how long it would take to decrypt that? What? 1 second? 2 seconds? So, yeah, the better way is to use an encrypted service and then put a link, talk on an encrypted service. For example, Brax.me has that. I upload my files to Brax.me, then I pass a link from Brax.me. So the people actually getting the email don't actually get the actual data. They just get the link, which then I can terminate. What are your thoughts on decentralization? It's not going to happen. We're already centralized. So what are you going to do? Have both decentralization and centralization? We are already being centralized by Google. So in order for decentralization to make sense, you have to stop decentralization. Stop centralization. Making that clear. If you are still centralized, then decentralization just adds data. Microsoft buying Discord. Well, I don't really care because I never cared about Discord. Is there a risk of using commercial laptops in terms of privacy regardless of the OS installed? The reality is, for a home user, no. The issue that the issue that you're dealing with is called IME, or Intel Management Engine, or vPro, Intel vPro, and the AMD version of that. And that's a backdoor to the computer that is really only applicable in a corporate environment. There's actually somebody from the internet cannot take over your computer unless they're on your local network. So they're not going to be able to get into your home network unless, they hack you from outside, a car down the street is hacking your Wi-Fi. That's about the only way. You cannot be hacked on your home network from the internet. So if you have to go through the internet, then no, there's no risk. So no, I don't think I don't think that we need to worry about that. What we do need to worry about is how you set up your OS on the computer. In general, of course, computers are much safer than phones. But if you're going to use Windows, you got to remove the spyware. I don't know how to remove the spyware from a Mac. Windows, at least, I know how to remove the spyware. So use Linux. Then you don't have to worry about the spyware. Okay, so, but in general, you have to accept the fact that a laptop is going to be much safer than a phone. Much, much safer. So if you give me a choice, what should I use? Should I use a iOS iPad versus a Microsoft Surface? I'm going to go with a Surface, or preferably I'd go with an ultralight laptop, because I can always undo the spying from Windows. Microsoft never did really do a good job. They're trying to be a spy company. They don't know how. They don't know how. So unfortunately for Microsoft, good for us, but Microsoft is a very poor spy company. So it's very easy to turn off all of the the spyware from a Microsoft Windows computer. So it's not like, in on Apple they hide it, so you don't really know what it's doing in there. Okay? Many IRC servers are clear text. Many? I thought all IRC servers are clear text. Thank you. But on XMPP, there's no way to save messages unless you copy paste to a word processor, right? I don't understand that. Yeah, I guess. But no, you can have attachments. XMPP servers can have attachments. So you can attach video files, kind of like MMS. Does extra PC have spyware? I don't know what extra PC is. That's kind of that's a desktop, isn't it? I'm not familiar with an extra PC. So PinePhone, I'm gonna have to go back to my PinePhone because somebody was saying that the Mobi operating system is starting to look very stable. So I want to go try that out. I'm trying to get rid of Windows or use something else. Well, you can use Linux. But yes, you can take out spyware from Windows. So I use all. I have a Mac, I have Linux, I have Windows. So I use all of them. Extra is an email provider that broke away from Yahoo, I heard. Oh, interesting. Okay. You mean yahoo.com is now Extra? MX Linux on a Dell T5400 workstation. Old PC, but stable and still fast. What if you want to save messages on XMPP? Can you save an email? Can it be done? Yes. Yes. So you have to configure your XMPP server to accept attachments. They're not configured that way automatically for space saving reasons. So you have to configure and say, I allow attachments, and then yes. And most of the large paid XMPP servers do allow attachments. So you don't have to use your own XMPP server. You can use a commercial one. You just have to pay for it. Just install Pop OS. Pop OS is fine. Yeah. Yeah. System 76 uses Pop OS. So yeah, it's fine. It's Linux. So, I mean, it's not going to have spyware. Ubuntu has a little bit of spyware, but it's not, to be honest, it's a little bit overstated. The tracking is fairly limited. I still use Ubuntu. I mean, if you're trying to compare that to what Google's doing, they're basically just trying to determine how many users there are on Ubuntu. And yes, I can see it calling Ubuntu.com. I track that and I can see how many times it does that. And so it basically does, just logging in, when you sign into your computer running Ubuntu, it checks in with the home server to say you're online. And I guess they're using that to count the number of users. What books do you recommend on learning about computer security and privacy? I can't really recommend anything because you just watch my videos. Because the problem is, even what I say here gets out of date really, really fast. You have to kind of stay up to date on this. It changes constantly. Ubuntu has spyware built in. Yes, I know that I know what it tracks. I don't know about the reports to Amazon. I didn't see that. I know that it goes to ubuntu.com. So, do you have a video on how to install the Brax router? Yes, I have several videos in that. And a recent one too. How secure are the old Windows Mobile 7 HTC phones? They're probably not secure, but they're private. But they're not going to run anymore, so don't even bother now. Does DOS have spyware? Yeah, I'm sure DOS has, DOS has a lot of spyware, like Windows has spyware, but it's not about privacy. So understand the difference, guys. My thing is that I'm talking about privacy. I'm not saying that I will protect you against hackers, which is kind of a different threat, and it's actually easy to solve. So 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 Amy and anybody else dealing with hackers, I've already told you this. The way that you do it is on your computers and your phone. Do not be the admin. Do not be the admin. Do not use the admin account. I do not use the admin account. I'm using Windows right here right now doing this. This is a dedicated computer for broadcasting, and it just stays here. And this computer is basically uh, never on admin. So the way I do it is the admin user is not really the admin. This is in my video on setting up your Microsoft computer to not have Microsoft spyware. And so because it's not an admin, a virus or a any kind of malware cannot take hold because it doesn't have administrator rights. That's it. That's it. Now, if you're using Linux, then you don't have to think about that because Linux by default doesn't do that. Same with a Mac, actually. So only Windows actually logs you in as a normal user as an admin. Only Windows does that by default. So set it up like Linux where you're not the admin. Set it up like a Mac where you're not the admin. Okay? That is really it. You do that and it's pretty impossible to hack your computer unless you purposely download and install it. Somebody will have to trick you to download. I mean, you got to be conscious about that. Okay, so Amy, very simple. You do a factory reset on your devices, phones, computers. Factory reset. Now you're done at the beginning. Then on your computers, you set it up with two accounts, admin account and the non-admin user. You can install all of your software using the admin account, but once it's installed, you stop using the admin account and you use your non-admin account. Okay, and then it's as long as you're always using the admin account and the admin is not logged in, a malware can't really get in there. It's really pretty basic, but you need to wipe out existing malware using a factory reset. That's it. It's less of a privacy question. It's cybersecurity. It's a cybersecurity question, but as an experienced hacker myself, I can tell you that it's extremely hard to do something like hack a computer if you're not the admin, unless it's done with social engineering. So yes, I can still hack you with social engineering because you're installing something thinking it's something important. And it's not. It's fake. I can come up with an excuse and say, "Oh, you need to install this. This is necessary for your employment application. So install this software." And you install the software, and then because you gave it permission, then you will get malware. If you do that, and you say, "Oh my gosh, why did I do that?" Do a factory reset. The other thing that I do on my computer is I always have a second drive. So in my case, I put my data on my D drive. So my C drive does not have any data whatsoever. I do not put data. Only programs are in C drive. So if I have to reinstall, I never have to think about the data because they're always in D drive. So I can always just reinstall my computer. If you do not have a D drive built in, then you get yourself one of these. So this is a 1 terabyte SSD. This is a T7 from Samsung. T7. Okay, this is SSD, super fast, as fast as any hard drive. And that's what I do. Is on my computers is I put Velcro. You see the Velcro in the back here? I put a Velcro on all of my laptops. So I just Velcro this on the top, plug this in to the USB. And if you have the different kind of USB, I have this. So you can use this kind of USB-A. See that? So I can use either one. The USB-C or USB-A. And this is Velcroed to my computer, and I use a very short cable that I got from Amazon. Very short cable, it's only 6 inches, and that's enough to not be bulky. And by doing that, then I keep my data on here. Do not put data on your computer, and do not be the admin. And it's like simple stuff. It's not very complicated. And I've never gotten a malware. Just simple procedures. I don't get malware. Well, I'm careful about what I click too. Like, since I hate email, I hardly ever click email. Okay, so you love the Velcro, yeah. So this is like stuff that I've learned over the years, and it's really, really practical. And by doing this, you get into the habit of never putting data on your computer. That's really what the purpose of this is. Do not put data on your main C drive. You put your data on this. It doesn't matter if you have a Mac, Linux, or Windows. I always put the data here. Then I can actually move it to another computer. And if I lose the computer, no big deal. Reset, start again. Data's still here. Now, another tip. So when you're setting up your computer, you're downloading all these programs to install. So you're downloading, for example, I don't use Microsoft Office. I use LibreOffice. So if I'm going to install LibreOffice, what am I going to do? I download all the files for LibreOffice, OpenVPN, or whatever software I need to use. And instead of just dumping it in my downloads folder, I put my installation files for my program software on here. Now, why do I do that? Because when I do factory reset, my software is already on here. All I have to do is click on them to install. It takes a fraction of the time. My data is already here. Easy. Okay, and then, so data is always just on here. And obviously, somebody can steal this, and you're in big trouble. Okay, so do your physical protection there. Okay, so this is very, very practical advice here. Very, very practical. Now, my other practical advice for you is do not follow the trend. Okay, do not rely on your zucking phone and be doing this all day like all these young people. I have so many of you young followers in here, and the young people in my group here, these are the smart young people. Do not be like those dumb young people who just do this all day and just blind. This is a small screen. A computer is a big screen. Come on, enjoy your computer. Let's go back to the computer world. If that's the equivalent of me saying that I'm a Luddite and I'm going back to the cave, yeah, I'm going to go back to the cave with my fancy, powerful computers with NVIDIA cards. Okay? Gaming computers. Sure, call me a Luddite. Call me whatever. I'm like so out of date with technology. I use a computer. So, yeah. But I'm not going to be spied by my phone. So in my case, like look at my case here, just so you understand where I am. Okay. I have a de-Googled phone, as you all know. That's what I sell. I sell these de-Googled phones. There's no Google here. Google doesn't know anything. Google doesn't know anything about me because, as far as they see, I don't exist. Or I have a old Android sitting in the house. That never leaves and never moves. Okay, so they can spy on that. I don't do anything on it, so they can spy on that all they want. They're not going to get any information since it's not doing anything. So that maybe they can spy on that, but they can't spy on me on this. There's no location tracking. There's no Google looking at my IMEI or MZ. There's nothing. I can run any app on here. There's nothing. I don't have to worry about what apps I install. I don't have to think about anything. There's nothing. Okay? Then I use my computer. So my computer, as I already told you, the best way to set up your computer is to run 2 or 3 browsers. And you dedicate one browser for Google. Do not use Facebook. So let's just stick to Google. So I dedicate one browser for Google, logged in to Google, Chrome, Gmail, whatever, logged in. Okay? So, since I know Google is watching that browser, it's going to be Chrome, of course. I know Google's watching that browser. I can then feed whatever I want Google to see on that browser, which is, by the way, the browser that I use for my YouTube channel. So when I'm logged into Google, it's because I'm logged into my YouTube channel. And so I'm going to feed Google what I want them to see about my channel. All the happy stuff. That's what they're going to see on my Chrome, doing YouTube. All the happy stuff. Things that I talk about on my channel. Yeah, they can see all that. They can see my subscription list and who I'm subscribed to. I subscribe to like sailing channels, stuff like that, and Linux channels. They can see all that, all they want. Okay. Now, and then on that browser, then I select whatever I want them to see as far as, CNN versus Fox News. So you make your choice. Do you want to put Fox News on the Chrome, or you want to put CNN on the Chrome? You make that choice. So then, but the intent is clear that you're telling Google something. You want them to learn about what you're doing on that browser. Then I have a second browser, which is Brave, and I can do YouTube there without ever logging in. I never log in on that browser. And then I can do any YouTube I want. And, one of the things that I do not want to do on my main channel is, for example, I don't ever look at gun videos. Never going to look at a gun video on my main channel. That's one good way to get demonetized. So not going to do that. But if I want to do that on Brave, supposing I want to do that, I will go on Brave, and then I'm going to go YouTube, and then I can go look at the gun videos, and then, I don't have to worry because it's never logged into Google. Okay? This is called disinformation. And then I have a third browser, which I use for everything else. So all of the other stuff I do never has Google on there. Never. I would never log into Google on my third computer. In fact, I wouldn't go to Google at all on the third browser. And by doing this, you actually manage the information flow. Look at my case here. My information flow comes from a computer, comes from a phone. Well, there's no data from the phone. So the only data from me comes from my computer and comes from a Chrome browser and comes from whatever I feed them. I make my choice about what videos I'm going to watch. They can decide all that. But then on my Brave account, I do whatever I want on Google, and then on my third browser, I isolate that so Amazon does not see Google, and so on. Okay, so that's just some, these are like practical advice things. It's very simple. I've repeated this over and over. It's if you understand this, this is actually very, very sophisticated because it kind of blunts a lot of the stuff that they can track. Now, it's important on a computer to always be on a VPN because although Google says they're going to stop tracking us by IP address, they still are. So you need to actually use a VPN. Now, no, Brave sell data. I don't have any data to be sold, so that doesn't matter to me. There's no data for Brave to sell. Brave is not Google. Okay, they're not capable of collecting data at the level of what Google does. Okay, so come on. I mean, you know, you could say, oh, Canonical spies on you, and even Microsoft spying on you, and you're saying Brave spies on you. But the reality is, you know, every VPN can spy on you too. But if they don't have the size of Google, the data can't really be too meaningful. Okay, the data is not that meaningful. So you cannot survive on decentralized platforms when the world is centralized. So you can only, you know, survive with decentralization if decentralization stops. This guy doesn't like Canonical. Don't use Canonical. I'm not telling you to use it. You can use whatever you want. Not forcing you to use Canonical. I'm just telling you some basic tips that impact on your privacy in a big way. I'm not splitting hairs here. We're not getting to. Some of you are so, you know, anal about every little detail, and I can't teach that. It's too, you know, too much. When the results are going to be here if we do the 90%, we're going to blast away the data. We're going to blast away the centralization with just a few steps that I'm talking about. And what is really the intent? The intent is that there's two parts to data collection: data plus identity. So a lot of, you know, you could say Brave is collecting my data, but they don't have identity. Makes the data useless. Google has data and identity. Carriers have identity, no data. Okay, you got to have like both. So 666 viewer. No, there's already 4,868 viewers. That's just the concurrent viewers. I use the SDD or SSD. PayPal is now in China, so they cannot be trusted anymore. You know, it's hard to trust any financial company, to be honest with you. It's really hard. So, because they're all collecting data. I mean, everything is tied to the credit system. But we have to function, so you have to kind of, you know, like take the least amount of evil. The problem is if you use a credit card directly, you're going to get fraud. And the reason I use PayPal is because I don't have to reveal my credit card number to other websites. And that's really the reason why. It's the least of all the evils here. Thank you, Drew. Thank you. It's very, very kind of you. You need help to do what you want. I want you to win. I'm cheering for you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, my you know, I went through like this big increase in my channel, and then suddenly Google just stopped feeding my videos. You know, it's like my subscriber number stopped growing, and it's just so inconsistent. You just never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. But I fortunately, you know, the Odyssey channel is doing very well. It has the same content as here. My Odyssey channel is doing great. I'm number 17 now. I'm in the top number 17 on Odyssey, and number 15 is Donald Trump. So I'm only in popularity. I'm only you know, 2 accounts short of Donald Trump. So yeah, so Odyssey is doing well. Now at some point, Odyssey has asked me to do live streaming on Odyssey, but I have to set it up, and I haven't had the time yet to do that because it's kind of complicated because I have to set up a server to do retransmission of my video, which I have. I already made that, but I have to set it up. What is Odyssey is the library. Odyssee, not not the Greek literature. Maybe a future Brax browser. What's the difference? Browser to browser. We all know that the powers to be need to silence the message. Yes, so I don't know if I'm being silenced now or it's just the algorithm. So you can help me fight the algorithm by actually hitting like and, in fact, you making comments is very, very good for the algorithm. So, yeah, thank you for all these comments. Your channel must be known on there. So I'm being in the top 17 channels on Odyssey. I've actually skipped so many and some fairly famous people. So I've passed fairly famous people in popularity on Odyssey. So I need to pass Donald Trump. Okay, so I think we're only like 1,500, maybe less. I'm gonna say 1,000. I'm 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 followers away from Donald Trump. So that's doable. I want to put Donald Trump at number 16, and I'll be number 15. Is it free to upload video to Odyssey? Yes. You're having trouble uploading videos. I don't really know how that works. I mean, I upload it all the time. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Do you care more about online status than privacy? Do you care more about online status than privacy? Who is that intended for? Can governments decrypt the content of messages on the Signal app? Not on the internet. If they take your phone, they may be able to do it. If you have the physical phone, but not from the internet. Yes, a fake profile with fake ID and fake gov docs. Can government? Okay. The bad orange man is kind of popular. I want to be more popular than he is. Is that okay? Not being political here. I just want to be more popular than he is. Silicon bodysuit. Does Odyssey not allow full movie captures? I don't know if there's any limitations, but like anything else, you can't really do copyright violations. Do you use Telegram? Is it safe from Big Brother? I have Telegram and I've used it very few times. I'm not a big fan of Telegram, but you can use it. Can we take Brax router on holiday? You can if you have an Ethernet port. Brax router is not going to be useful on Wi-Fi. It has to be plugged into Ethernet. If you can plug into Ethernet, yes. So if you're going to visit family and they have Ethernet and you say, can I plug into an open port, and they let you, then good. Then you can use it. I looked at Signal app. It works on phones and desktop PC. Yes, you can. I've never tried it on desktop PC, but it's really based on the phone one. What is the most secure private Linux distro? Secure and private. That's a lot of limitations there. I was a heavy user of Unix. So if you want to know my personal bias is Unix, and the reason is the other option for privacy is Cubes. Cubes is such a difficult distro to work with. basically doesn't work on 99% of the computers. So it's very, very difficult to actually put cubes to use, and it's complex. So I've used Unix. Um, so the question is, do you use Unix versus Tails? Unix can actually be persistent, and it's kind of slow, but it's the most secure. That does what is called SOX 5 internet, where the entire internet traffic is passed through Tor. So yeah, so if you're going to ask me, I have a lot more experience with Unix myself, and it pretty much works on everything because you can run Unix on VirtualBox. So you use VirtualBox, which pretty much runs on every platform, whether it be Mac, Windows, or Linux, and then you can use Unix. The other ones don't. You have to install it raw on machine, and if it's not compatible, it's not going to work. Kali Linux is a offensive tool. It's not a usable platform for. It's not for defense. And I use Kali Linux too. That's when you want to do some hacking. Can you talk about using credit cards versus cash? When can you talk about using credit cards versus cash? It's a problem, Kent. I mean, I don't really know what to tell you there. We're kind of locked into society where, what do we do? They're trying to make it cashless, and I can't fight that. So the way to fight it is to go create a different set of transactions using crypto. So, yeah, crypto is the way because you can't transact, with cash over the internet. So, but you can with crypto. So that's what that's what I would recommend is try to get into crypto a little bit and see if you can put that to use. So I use crypto. Of course, the IRS wants to know that too, so they actually ask you that question. Do you use crypto? Did you already discuss voice over IP? Yes. Even in this broadcast, I did discuss it. Mail order catalogs are obsolete. You could send a money order to buy stuff. Yeah, many of you send me money orders, and you know how difficult that is. You can't get an order quickly because you got to send the money order, and it takes a long time to arrive. And then like how do you do that with Amazon? I didn't download Brave browser because it has permissions for mic and camera. Yes, you are overly paranoid because you turn off the permissions for mic and camera. Obviously, the browser needs mic and camera if you're going to do some app like Jitsi. So how are you going to do that without mic and camera? Most browsers now allow you to set permissions for mic and camera by default. Starlink thoughts. I want to sign up to Starlink actually. I think I qualify here. Just to test. I don't even, I already have Spectrum here, but I'm really thinking that I want to try Starlink. So thinking about that. I was going to put it on my boat, but it's not. Apparently, you can't move with Starlink right now. You got to be in a fixed spot. So you can't be mobile on Starlink because the way that the satellite works, it will go to your location and send you a signal, and then it feeds. It basically does a circle around your neighborhood and sends data kind of like in a pattern. And you can't do that if you're moving. You have to be within their zone. So Starlink it doesn't really work for my boat setup. So, but I'd like to try it at my home because it's it's just alternative and it's not that expensive. I don't use prepaid cards, Christine, so I don't know what to tell you there. Uh, Crypto users are tracked same as credit card. Yes. Only if you buy and only if you sell to dollars. So let's say you buy crypto, that's tracked. Okay? But you don't really have to worry about the IRS or anything like that until you sell it back to cash. If you buy things, you actually don't need to declare that. If you're buying things, it's your money. So yeah, I don't think you declare if you're buying things. But if you bring it back to cash, yes, because how do you bring it back to cash? You got to go to, Coinbase. In the U.S., they need KYC for cash, or you go to BitPay and you put the cash into a credit card and you spend it like a normal card. So Monero is very good, but the problem is I don't use Monero myself because I don't like the value. Because if I kept my crypto in Monero, then I would have much less money than what I have because I kept it in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is keeping the value more. So if you're keeping it for a long, because I don't cash crypto. So I'm not gonna go turn crypto back to dollars. So because of that, I don't have to worry about tax liability because you only get liability when it's capital gains. So since I don't sell it, then nothing's happening to it. Would you consider turning out a handful of new videos that summarize your main points so when people ask the same old question, you can refer them just a few summary videos? I've done that, Sir Ian Trilor. Not helping. I already have so many videos. No. So I'm just going to do it in a live stream and just do a quick answer here. Just a quick answer. So yeah, Starlink is phase 1, as you say, and but I'm willing to try it with phase 1. Thank you, Blood Sport. IRS is trying to declare crypto as an investment, so you have to track gains, losses, transaction sales, etc. Whew. When that time comes, then I guess the crypto has to disappear. What are your thoughts on cloud storage? Cloud storage is great if you control it or if it's encrypted end-to-end. There's a company that does end-to-end encrypted cloud storage, which is pCloud. And you have to pay for it. They have an end-to-end encrypted version of that. I myself use my own app for storage. I store in my own cloud, Brax me. And so I store in my own cloud storage. And I encrypted it myself, so I know I'm safe with that. And you can use my app and store there as well. If you have a Social Vision account, you can use it for storage. But it's not like a hard drive, like a Dropbox. It's file by file. Don't mess with the IRS. No, I don't mess with the IRS. If the IRS says I gotta pay, then I gotta pay. I think it is not fair to ask people to pay tax on their transaction. If you buy something online, we assume that the tax is already included in the price. Well, it's convention. You can't really do that because for example, in the U.S., each state has different taxes. So when people buy from my store, only the people who buy from California actually have to pay tax. There's no tax for, the rest of the 50 states. Could they take the tax out of exchange? They could take the tax out of exchange trading fees. How to achieve privacy when signing up for a phone plan? Some plans do not ask for too much information. Like on Ting.com, they didn't really ask me for anything. I gave them an email, but I guess they have my credit card. but they didn't really ask for anything else. How can I cash my LBC privately, or at least without giving my ID? I'm not in the U.S. Uh, yeah, you're going to be subjected to KYC laws. So, I can't tell you solutions for that because I'm subject to the same laws that anybody else. If I may not like it, but if the government says I got to pay tax, then I got to pay tax. So, I'm not. That's not part of what I teach here. So I don't tell you not to pay tax. Okay, McAfee is being held in Spain because of that same thing. He didn't pay tax for many years, and he knew they were going to go after him, and so unfortunately I don't have the luxury of running away. So I pay tax. If they tell me I need to pay tax, I'll have to pay tax. My understanding right now is you only pay tax on capital gains. So if you spend the money, and you have to declare it. So since I'm not spending anything, then I have nothing to declare. Plus, I don't really have a lot, so it's not really anything I have to worry about. Do you trust Elon Musk? I don't know if I trust Elon Musk, but I like Elon Musk. He's not like the other billionaires. Yeah, I like Elon Musk. He's not his thought process is a little bit different than the other ones, and he's not out to get me. He's not out to spy. He apparently he even stated that he wants to make sure that we know that his Tesla is not going to spy on anyone, because if they know, he accepted this, that if people find out that the Tesla is spying on you, then nobody would buy a Tesla. Smart enough to realize that. You wrote my own tax software. Elon is a Texan now. Well, he is now because he doesn't want to be a Californian. He's an alien, moved to Puerto Rico. I'm watching all these, cruising sailors from Puerto Rico. It looks like fun. So Elon, to be honest with you, I every time he talks about something, I have to see, is he, I don't know who he's for. Is he for us privacy or against? And I know his old partner, Thiel, the founder of Palantir. So both of them, started PayPal. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and Thiel is into spying. He started Palantir, which is a total spy company. So you can see, they're opposite. They're on opposite sides of that. So Thiel decided that he's going to be in the spying business, and Elon Musk is just making other things that other tech things that have nothing to do with spying. So that's good news. That's good news. So Thiel is kind of they come in different flavors. Thiel is on the right, Zuckerberg is on the left. They're all bad guys. Yeah, Zuck looks pretty alien. Elon Musk already believes we're in a simulation. Google said they would never use the data for evil purposes. Yeah, but Tesla is not in the data business. Tesla is in the car business. You don't trust Elon Musk. Well, you don't have to trust him. I'm just telling you that based on, his behavior and what he's done and what he's saying, that it does not appear to be the case. Now, for example, if you have a Tesla, the Tesla is actually not connected uh, by default to Tesla until you come home and log into your Wi-Fi. You have to actually connect the Tesla to the Wi-Fi of your house, and that's when it downloads the data. In theory, they're supposed to only get no. Starlink is in the satellite business. Starlink is in the space business. You don't have to trust them. What are your thoughts on IT certifications? I've never gotten an IT certification in my life. So there. I don't need IT certifications. If somebody said, "I'll give you an IT I need to test you, with an IT certification," and I'm going to tell the tester, "Let me test you. Let me see if you know more than I do." Chances are I know more than you do. So, anyway, guys, we're out of time. You are so much fun. This has been kind of a fun Q&A, and I really appreciate you watching and appreciate the super chats. So many of you gave super chats. That's so appreciated. And we will continue with a video to take it to the next step from what I explained in my last video, which I hope you watched, on what's happening with our data, the permanence of our data. And I want to take that a little bit further to see how you can manipulate that data, which is actually already happening. So that'll be the next video, is the manipulation of that data. So please watch that, and that'll come out next Thursday. And it comes out on Wednesday on Odyssey. So Odyssey gets my videos the night before. Okay, guys? So thank you very much. Tomorrow I'm going to go sailing, so I may not be able to do tech support until after that, till tomorrow night. But I'm going to go sailing because I need a break. So I think I may do my next video on the boat. From, maybe from here on. I'm testing it. It looks okay, but I'm testing the equipment on there. So thanks a lot, guys. See you later. Good night.